Aloha and welcome to Akaku Maui Community Media. Thank you for showing up tonight for Akaku Upstairs. That we do this every third Thursday, and we try to elevate community and conversation by inviting certain people in the community who have interesting stories and where we feel like the conversation around their stories will elevate our community as a whole. So thank you so much for coming tonight. We are really thankful for our April Salon guests, and our primary guest is Victoria Moore, who wrote the book Big Hearts on a Little Island, which is over approximately 200 community stories about people who responded during the 2023 wildfires. And she is joined by some of the featured guests inside the book, and they will share their stories, both what happened during the fire, the work that they got involved in and why, and the work they're continuing to do, both in Lahaina and in Kula. So I would like to have them each do a short bio about who they are and currently what they're doing.
Yeah, hi, thank you so much for being here and for all those watching. My name is Victoria Moore, and my background is mostly in international aid and relief work. I spent most of my 20s in East Africa trying to figure out how do we actually help effectively. And it was a question that plagued me a lot in my life. And then I also was a filmmaker and an author on similar subjects. And most recently, this has been my labor of love, of making sure that the most beautiful grassroots effort I've ever seen in all of my 2 decades of work was recorded so that we could share it for future generations. So yeah, thank you, Kat, for having us. Appreciate it.
Aloha mai kakou. My name is Trinette Furtado. I run Ice Cream Auntie's Missions of Aloha, a program under the Maui Rapid Response Organization. And besides doing community outreach, I am also a kahu, a small business owner, a cultural advisor for a wetlands group, and a staunch protector and activist for Aina. And I'm really honored and very happy to be here this evening sharing this space with all of you.
Good evening. My name is Shannon. I'm here representing Makula, which was grassroots started as the Kula Hub. And in my time outside of this effort, I'm a boat captain on the island and also a naturalist.
Aloha, everybody. My name is Nettie Aquino. I am from this island of Maui, and I am an executive director and founder of Nakia'io Maui. We, from the early days, was here from day one all the way till now. We here from the past, present, and future. We are moving on with Lahaina. So what am I? We serve the people. No na kanaka. So we are a hub that turned into a great big center that serves 4,000 families right now. So mahalo.
Thank you, Nettie.
Awesome. I wanted to set the stage before we get into the book and the slideshow and each person's personal stories. Victoria's background in international aid relief, and it sounded like you were looking for like the faults within it, but she did approximately a decade ago a 10-part series of video work called Beyond Good Intentions. And she wrote a book about her experiences doing the films and the experiences she had in these international aid countries that she was involved in. And I wanted to show this one excerpt. I thought this one segment, it's about 6 minutes, of work that she was involved in documenting the relief work in Indonesia after an earthquake destroyed a village and homes, etc. And what happened during the relief aid that came and whether or not it met the community's needs. So I want to just set the stage that she's seen some stuff, and that's what I think what was inspiring her when she saw what was happening in the wildfires and the community response that really astounded her, it sounds like. So we're going to take a look at this, and then we'll come back to this the conversation after the rest of the salon to talk about the relief efforts and whether or not it is the types of aid that came into Maui, if it's meeting the needs of the community and kind of paralleling it to this Indonesian relief effort. So we'll take a look at that video now.
In relief work, there's never a shortage of good intentions, but there often seems to be a shortage of good ideas. I'm here in the villages on the island of Java shortly after a devastating earthquake to see if the aid organizations are able to find more innovative and effective approaches. Come around the world with me on an epic journey as we investigate what really works in international aid. It's time to go beyond good intentions.
Aku lagi belajar, tujuan kelas agak belajar, pun gur kita. Jam mereka lu keluar ngoten, tau ya pengen ngantuk,
Nah, pulangnya gempa dari sebelah barat itu suara seperti kereta api yang suaranya kencang itu. Nah itu ada guncangan ke atas turun.
Both Wirio and Sarjoko's homes were completely destroyed. A total of 1.5 million people in the region were suddenly left homeless, mostly due to the poor construction of their houses. Aid organizations descended on the area, but few had learned their lessons from the failures of the tsunami relief efforts. CARE International was one of the only agencies trying to innovate their response.
Earthquakes in Indonesia kill more people than most diseases. And the reason why people are getting killed is because houses are poorly designed.
So CARE has partnered with civil engineers to create structural designs that would withstand future earthquakes.
We're trying to make things better and try to avoid that we are back here within 10 years building again houses.
But CARE also recognized that many of the structural problems were due to the poor quality of building materials sold in local shops. So they innovated a unique voucher program that embraces a market-based approach to disaster relief. The program ensures that local supply chains are strengthened, that high-quality building materials are used, and that community members are able to rebuild their homes without feeling as if they've simply received a handout from abroad. But CARE's engineers are discovering that there are problems with this approach.
It's not up to standard. A lot of structural element not straight and a lot of variation. So the drawing and the construction is not the same. So many problems. I don't know where to start.
This is a step in the right direction, but more has to be done.
The CARE voucher program was later terminated. It seems that even the most well-conceived, innovative plans can sometimes fail. I wonder if I can find examples of successful innovation elsewhere. I felt like I had just entered some sort of galactic universe. Domes for the world? What was this place? I met up with the construction manager to find out.
Oh, ini dari Amerika. Ya. Bangunan ini menahan itu anti gempa, anti badai.
The idea for domes for the world was certainly innovative. These eco shells were easy to build and were extremely durable. But what did the recipients of these domes think? The couple's house had been completely destroyed by the earthquake. They entered a lottery and were selected as recipients of one of the domes. But there were many questions unanswered. Could their animals graze on the grass outside the dome? Did they own the land? Could they ever sell their dome? It seemed the logistics of the project hadn't been fully considered.
Tapi rak kuwatir Bu nek upami lemah niku kan tumbas ngangsur nek kados kula mboten kuat dados semengke rak nggih mung kawuan mboten lajeng mapan pripun.
Since the Domes for the World project had taken over 10 months to complete, the couple had already rebuilt their home nearby, but they're looking forward to moving into their dome in 2 weeks' time. However, it seems that not everyone appreciates the good intentions of the Domes for the World project.
Ini ku melahan ketambahan iku lotre bareng. Pone rapate sing riyen ki ambak, sik pas para-para itu sih ngungsi. Pone kan kali mboten setuju ngoten.
First priority was supposed to go to those in most need, but that didn't end up happening.
Asal pinggir kali niko. Kula ki waune sing dijaluk niku nggeretan gek waune ten pinggir kali.
Ning tiang pundi-pundi enten sing bantu.
Nettie thinks the Domes for the World project is quite amusing, but if she had been asked, it wouldn't have been her first choice of relief projects.
Dipilih, lajeng dipilih dong enten bantuan duit nggih, dong milih duit. Lah nek mengke mbantune niku arta nggih kula cake napa kirangane.
I'm leaving Indonesia a bit unsettled. I'm a huge advocate for innovation in aid, but is it possible to be too innovative? How can disaster relief be more effective? Tell us what you think at beyondgoodintentions.com. And join me next week as I head to Cambodia to see what happens when a nonprofit embraces higher standards for their work.
In any case, I thought that was interesting work that you've done that you've done in the past.
Thank you. Back that was almost 20 years ago.
Oh wow!
Was
My
24-year-old self. Yeah, thank God.
Starting with you, Victoria, and have you share what was going on for you the day or days of the fire.
So the day of the fire, I was actually affected by the Kihei fire, and that's where me and my family reside. And we were 3 houses away from evacuation, so we were packing quickly. You learn a lot about yourself and your partners when you are almost about to evacuate, of what matters and what do you take with you. And we were kind of looking at each other, being like, "This is all we need, just our kids and each other." And it felt very beautiful in that way, but still very scary, obviously, to have orange sky behind your house just 6 blocks away. So after we realized, thank God, that Kihei wasn't going to be affected the way that Lahaina and Kula were, we jumped into action and just started to say, how can we help? So we started showing up, and the first person I saw in my efforts to help was Auntie Nettie, who was just owning it at War Memorial Shelter. She was just on top of everything. And so I was just like, we have community members who are already on this. Tell me what to do. And so I just had this really great experience of just saying, I'm here. Take me as you need me. And then about a week or 2 later, I met Shannon at the Kula Hub and put a lot of hours in up there and really loved that work. Kula was very different because you could actually be on the property with the community members. It wasn't closed off like Lahaina, so it gave a different experience in that way. So yeah, that we just jumped right in.
For me, I come from Lahaina. My aunts, my brother, my nephew, a large part of my family live in Lahaina. And this fire, now remember, Lahaina had a fire in 2018 that was devastating. And I was one of the first people there into Lahaina with supplies. I had people meet me at Kahului Shopping Center parking lot. I had a Subaru Outback the first day, and then somebody donated a box truck the next day. And with that box truck and then donations that poured in, we were able to work together. I say we because I was also campaigning at the time, running for office. So I had my family, I had my campaign manager. I mean, everybody involved in the effort to move things over to Lahaina. So when this fire happened, I also lived in Kula at the time, very close to the fire up in Kula. So while I was preparing to evacuate myself and my dog, I was also trying to connect with my family and getting absolutely no cell service from them, not being able to find out what happened. And so very soon afterwards, when literally the smoke cleared of sorts, I borrowed a car and I went out west again, searching for them. And I took a caravan of folks when there was a roadblock, and we were stuffed to the gills on a flatbed. There were, I think, 6 trucks, and we all had different kinds of supplies, and met the roadblock. And one of the police officers was one of my classmates, and I said, I'm going through this because I'm going to take this stuff in. This is going to happen. And it did. And as we passed, I could hear through the walkie-talkie, everybody's like, woohoo, Auntie Tree. It was all about reaching our folks and being on this side of things, literally, with the pulley closing us off was very frustrating. And I know I'm not the only one that was frustrated with that. And just seeing the community support people, as Victoria was saying, just showing up and asking what they could do, even now still gives me chicken skin, because it not only shows the resilience of our community together, a Akaku thing, but it shows the aloha that we have, that for some of us, we didn't even know we had it until we were asked to give it. and then we gave of it freely. And that's one of the things that I want everybody to remember, is that that it is aloha that carries us through any disaster that we encounter, if we encounter it kako as a community.
So, where was I when the fire happened? Also, it's just awesome to get to hear everyone's stories. So I'm excited to be here. But I had been visiting a friend in Hilo when the fire happened. Woke up to my phone, spent the next couple of days communicating with other friends off island, make sure we knew where all of our coworkers and friends were, and struggled with the thought of, should I come back on island or not? And eventually a friend convinced me with just a small statement. She said, hey, Maui needs people who know Maui right now. So if you have the means to, come home. Luckily, some friends in Pukalani took me in for the first month after the fire, because I did lose my home in Lahaina. And since I was already up country, I had my first day back on island, went to one of the Red Cross shelters, and there was about 7 of us folding a pile of clothes, and I was like, okay, I think they don't need me here, but we were all searching for ways to help. So since I was already up country, the next day I saw a post from an old coworker of mine, Kyle Ellison. His wife Heather posted saying, hey, Kula needs help as well. And I realized, oh, no one was up there. And we quickly filled a space and provided a space for people to give their aid and help, because a lot was needed up there. Well, at the same time, Lahaina was in need of so much. So we all just kind of found our place. And yeah, that's where I was during the fire.
Listening to their stories and reading the stories on the book, and what we did, we were a piece of the puzzle. We never knew what other people did until we read the stories in the book. So first of all, I want to thank Victoria, because I finally was able to sit and read the book of the 200 plus Maui heroes, as we call them. So where was I? First of all, everyone, I am Nettie Aquino. I am from Lahaina. My family home also was burnt down. On that day, everyone, I had 3 choices: to be a victim, a survivor, or a fighter. On the day of the fire, I was on Haleakala pre-fire. I'm a sunrise and sunset tour driver for Polynesian Adventure Tours. And I was a kia'i. A kia'i is a protector and guardian and a steward of Haleakala. I was the one that educated people of our sacred mauna. I was a protector of that sacred mountain. On the day of the fire was sunset, and I had like 26 visitors on my bus coming down the mountain, and I saw Lahaina on fire. I saw Kihei on fire. I saw Kahalui on fire. There was 5 different places on the island of Maui that was on fire. I'm nervous because this brings me back from day 1. I chose to become a fighter because everybody else was just pulling my phone up. What we gonna do? What we gonna do? I turned the visitors that was on my bus into helpers. We had nowhere to go. They had to go back to Lahaina. Their hotel was in Lahaina. They had nowhere to go. So myself made a decision to take me and my visitors to Wailuku War Memorial Gym. When we got there, there was only 10 people. It was so early. And so everybody, I went that call to action. I did not give myself chance to get depressed and get sad and feel guilty. Our people needed us. And so at the shelter, everybody, me being the leader I am, you don't have to be loud to be a leader. I'm just extra. And so with that leadership personality, I was able to gather all the people that were there And with their help, we put up 2,800 cots, built a triage, rebuilt the kitchen, and anybody who came, there was no name, no status, no title. Everybody came for the same purpose, for the same reason. And so, where was I? I was on a mountain protecting my mama. And that very day, everybody, I became the kia'i of the people. I chose, and I'm glad I chose right.
Wow. Thank you all for sharing. And yeah, it's interesting how you all had were in different places. Like I feel like I was privileged to be in haiku and protected. And yeah, had I been in the midst of it, you don't know how you react. And that's a beautiful thing that you all found a response because you were all affected directly to these fires. So I want to turn it back to Victoria and her book. It looks like she, did 200 interviews of various people, and she had an interesting way how she got access to the people and the stories and the photos and stuff. So maybe tell us a little bit about the why, the process, the stories, and how the connection between all these different stories came to you to put this book together with if you didn't know, it's for she did at 100% proceeds go to the rebuilding of the Lahaina Library, which I think is a beautiful gesture. So yeah, give us a scope of this.
Sure. In the days and weeks after the fire, I was so touched by what I was seeing. And there was one day where I was with my kids at Kihei Library talking to librarian Kathleen Eggington. She's one of my favorite people on the island as well. And I told her, I said, isn't this amazing? I mean, have you ever seen anything like this? And I kept telling her, I was like, I hope somebody's writing this all down. I hope there's an archive of this somehow. And she's like, gosh, the library would just do anything for something like that. And of course, I go and, back into my normal life. I'm like, oh, wait a second. I'm an author. Or maybe that's on me. Maybe I'm the one that needs to be writing it all down. I've already been published. I know how to do this. Interviewing is one of my favorite things to do in the world. And so I took it on, and I knew it had to be done quickly because these stories were so in our brains so clearly in those early days, but they did start to fade as the months turned into a year. And so I needed to grab it while it was still fresh, but not too fresh. So there was a real balancing act of trying to figure out when the right time to approach each person was, of when they weren't still too deep in it or too affected by it, where they were ready to talk about it. So that was an interesting balancing act. But it was so interesting because finding the people to talk to was much easier than I ever expected, because on Maui, everybody knows everybody. And it's kind of this really cool spoke situation where you interview someone like Trinette, and then she's going to tell you the 3 people that inspired her the most, and then those people will each tell you the 3 people that inspired them the most. And so it was just this radiating sense of goodness just going out as I would call or email each person and meet with them. So little by little, it felt like a full-time job, but little by little I was able to meet with about 200 interviewees. I also wrangled over 100 photographers who all donated their photos totally for free, every single one, even the really famous ones. And then the way that sometimes you put something out into the world, that the universe kind of conspires to help you. That definitely happened in this case, because as soon as I decided I wanted to do this, I was a little worried that it might end up looking like a DIY scrapbook, honestly, because I'm not a designer. I was on the yearbook committee, but I don't know if that really counts. And after I interviewed Ellie Erickson, she's the woman who started the People Finder, the People Locator project, the big Google sheet of who is still missing and all that. She told someone from her team, she said, hey, this woman is writing this book. And he said, I want to design it. I'll do it for free. This put us in touch. Aaron DeWitt is an extraordinary designer. He did the entire book from Australia, but he was here after the fires and came for the book launch as well. Just knocked it out of the park and did such a beautiful job. So that was just one example of the ways that people came. We even in the audience have one of the photographers who donated all of her gorgeous shots for the book. And I mean, it was just a community effort. So my name might be on the cover, but I do not, take credit for this. I really am just the weaver of the stories, and that was really important to me to find a way to beautifully weave together all of these examples into one book. But also, I have to remind people that this is just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, I only met with 200 people. There were tens of thousands of people that were helping in the days and weeks and months after the fires. I mean, I couldn't capture them all. So this was just a sample of some of the beautiful stories that were going on here.
Yeah, I was wondering like how the network, the local network of putting you in contact with all these other helpers and stuff. And over time, more and more people, and you could find a way to get involved, but there was that initial, what a beautiful story, Nettie. Um, you know, from there probably not knowing what your home, family, friends, but you have a busload of tourists with you and they're displaced suddenly too. I mean, like for you to step into that warrior, mode and make things happen is, I'm sure there's more stories like that here. So it's great because you all were part of the web of the stories that were chosen here because you talk to each other. It'll be good when you go through, we'll have you go through your slideshow now. And then just during the slideshow, talk about the story. And then if anyone has a comment about what that particular story that she's sharing, your experience with that story, that would be really nice to hear too. So here's the mic and we'll start with your slideshow.
So here's our cover. This is Kaikanani 2 arriving just near, I think that's Black Rock there, isn't it? On Kaanapali Beach as they're unloading. And let's see if I can get it going. This actually is one of the best things because 2 days before this was due to the printer, I asked Aaron, I said, okay, I have this crazy idea on the end papers. What if it was a map? And he stayed up for like 2 days finishing this beautiful map so you could see exactly where the fires were, because I don't think everyone realizes just how big the Pulehu and Olinda fires were, how concentrated the Kula fire was, and we have a sense of Lahaina kind of, but it's really good to see it. And the map also shows where all of the hubs were and a lot of the places that were mentioned in the book. So this is kind of the origin story. This is me and my husband at the bottom, and my little boy Andrew. He's in his hard hat, ready to work. This is up in Kula, and it really was. I think the idea of doing the book solidified because of my work up in Kula. There was kind of this euphoria in the air that was hard to describe. There was a coming together of the volunteers that was just kind of like the life you wish you lived. And it was just very, very beautiful. And I just wanted to bottle it. All of this money is going to the Lahaina Public Library. But in this introduction, I also mentioned the fact that I'm not Native Hawaiian. And so I really wanted to go about this process with the most intense level of dignity and respect as an outsider. I'm a resident, but not a native. And so I really leaned on people like Trinette and others who could guide me and make sure that this was done in a really respectful way, and that I presented the Hawaiian culture in the best way as well. So I kind of start that from the beginning, just in the introduction. So there were 13 chapters in the book. There are 13 chapters. And it kind of vaguely goes in chronological order, but not quite. And obviously, first responders were really important. But what was really cool is the juxtaposition of first responders and civilians. And it happened a lot all throughout the initial emergency phase. So here you see the picture of the yellow gates in Lahaina that would go to the cane roads. And up ahead, on the right there is the live footage from body cam footage of a Maui police officer who got to the scene, and all those cars were stuck. They couldn't get out. But you also see Kavika Casco, and he is a firefighter from Wailuku. He was an engine 1 that ended up pushing so far into the fire that their truck got stuck and they almost died. They got rescued by another firefighter, and their truck burned down in the fire. But he was just pushing so hard. He says, our mentality was we're going to go no matter what the circumstances because we knew that everyone's life was at risk at that moment. And they pushed really far beyond their normal limits. But this gate is so interesting because a resident of Lahaina, Joshua Sarabay, was in his van with his family, and they were evacuating. And they were inching along, and his partner looks over at him, and he says, "My other half was looking at me." Joshua remembers, and she says, "I know what you're thinking. You should go. I know you'll be safe, and I know you want to help." And so Joshua got on his dirt bike, rounded up some of his cousins and friends. They all got bolt cutters, and they went to every single gate in Lahaina, and they opened them up so that people could get out. It still makes me tear up thinking about it. And even Kavika, who knows these young men, he said they saved a ton of lives that day just by alleviating the one-way traffic in and out. So everybody was working together in really beautiful ways, and it wasn't just the ones in uniform. Here's another example up in Kula, and Shannon, you can speak to this as well. This is Kyle Ellison's house. He's the founder of the Kula Hub. The fire truck right there actually got stuck at his house. It's probably one of the only reasons his house didn't burn, because it actually got trapped at the top there. But in the process of trying to fight the fire in Kula, we had firefighters rappelling down into the gulch using fire hoses. We had people like this woman at the top doing it themselves. It was just an all hands on deck kind of moment that was really beautiful to see. This is a great story as well. On the left, you actually see Bouge Sarabay, who's related to Joshua. So, Lahaina is very much, interconnected. All these families that all know each other. He stayed in the fire zone to spray down as much as he could, and I think he saved like some houses in a church. But on the right there is Benny, and Benny is this wonderful human who he's like a fitness instructor. He's really fit. So when he found himself stranded on Front Street, he definitely was someone who could have just swam to safety easily. He was strong enough. He was like definitely able to do that. But when he got in the water, he met these older women, and they just looked at him like, "Can you just stay? Can you just hang on for a second?" And for him, he said, he said, "There's no leaving that. There's no way I can say, 'Good luck, lady, I can't die here.' I've essentially been given the full-time job of ensuring them staying alive and they're not dying as well." And so he looked at the woman and said, "I'm not going anywhere." And he stayed with them all night long. I don't think they got to out of the water for 5 or 6 hours, and then they had to get to the shelter. He was holding, these older women to make sure that they survived, and his story is just really beautiful. Now this is where we want to give Nettie some time to tell us about this. Here she is at War Memorial Gymnasium. This is kind of what it looked like then, just rows of air mattresses and cots and things like that. We also had people like Ella Tactaran, who took in 23 people. We had Royal Lahaina, one of the best hotels. They just stepped up from night one. Here is executive chef Jason Asuncion. He lost his house and he just kept going. He's just feeding everybody. So yeah, some really impressive examples. Oops, let me go back to Nettie, of the shelters. Nettie, can you give us your perspective of kind of what it was like and what it felt like to see the helpers descend on the shelter?
So just wanted to give you guys some FYI. It takes 4 days for the government to deploy. So day of the fire, 4 days prior, it took the community, it took the grassroots organizations, it took the Maui County and the state to build a pilina, a relationship with our fire survivors. And so as servers, we were there for one focus, one goal, and that was to the 5 words, "How can I help you today?" Those 5 words you mentioned to every single person that came through. Maybe triage, or make him as a volunteer, or maybe if he came as a staff. I was not qualified to run a shelter. None of us was qualified or was trained for such a disaster as this. But sometimes, everybody, I am faith driven. My Lord puts me in places He needs me to be. And so for the shelter, everybody, there were many shelters, Maui High, Pukalani, and even in homes. Many, many. There were a total of 48 hubs. How do I know this? We served all 48 hubs. We helped build a lot of hubs. But for the shelter itself, let me draw this picture for you. Imagine 10 buses of fire victims coming through in different degree, traumatized and triggered and burned. I have a member in this audience that was with me from day one. She knows my story. And as people who are not qualified to deal with such disaster the first 4 days, we had to toughen up and not break down at the same time. We have to choose. For instance, there'll be a family, they come through and they're burnt and we give them their space. We wait till they're ready and then we serve them. Nothing about us, all the community to Maui County for stepping up and providing all the donations that came through. We had 900 volunteers before FEMA and Red Cross came. We built an amazing pilina with each and every one of them, whether they were unsheltered or not, whether they were visitors or business owners. We took care of them like as though they were our own family. So being the po'o, I was called Auntie Nettie. Whether you were young or old, that was a title that was given to me by respect. I led with a tight fist, everybody. I did. No cameras, no breaking into their space. Privacy, privacy, privacy. Volunteers would come through and I would give them the A to Z of expectations as a volunteer. You couldn't just come there and volunteer. You had to come there and get orientation by me. Why? Because I know how I wanted to be treated. Someone asked me at these shelters, how did you know what to do? Simple answer. The answer is, I want to be treated this way. You had to have a big heart and no sleep. I'm going to give you guys information about these shelters though. War Memorial Shelter was the biggest one. And all the others that came around, donations came by truckfuls. And we would just distribute to every single place, water, food, clothing, linen, toiletries, to everything that they needed just for that 5 words. How can I make you feel better today? How can I help you? And that was the standard I set. The standard was you treat them with respect, with love. So an orientation would look like this. 100 people would come. And I would lose my voice by the end of the day. But I would tell them what I expect from them. No status, no nothing. No breaking into you, go into their space. How do you see a space, a safe space? I'm going to share this with you. Because this is even from past, present to now. Providing a safe space where they can just be seen, they can be heard, and they can be respected as a human being. Starting with nothing, with just the clothes on their back and their families next to them, some without families. Providing that safe space I'm going to share with you is important because they will not open up. Example, this is a beautiful woman that came through. She lost her business, she lost her home. I don't break into her story or her trauma. I sit a little bit more. I wait till she's used to me. I say, when you're ready, I'm here for you. Auntie, how can I help you? Until they know that you're not going to abandon them tomorrow, they will open up to you tomorrow. So building that pilina with broken people, because we're all broken. And so for these shelters to be the fastest transition I'll tell you guys, it took 21 days to get these guys out of this shelter and into the Kaanapali hotels. I am grateful for the hotels on Kaanapali. They opened up all their rooms for their employees, families, and for all those in the shelters. I know the facts, I know the numbers. 21 days. And this is the fastest. And when FEMA and when the government came through, they tried to trample on us. You guys don't know how my fist was? They couldn't pass a line. Red Cross and FEMA was this way. And the Hui, we formed ourselves at the Hui, DAHUI. And then as we became a nonprofit, and I decided to become a nonprofit, I found out the Hui was already taken. So I created a nonprofit, and it is called Na Kia'i o Maui. Na is that S, the plural. Kia'i is the protectors and the guardians of Maui. So my nonprofit is called Na Kia'i o Maui, and we provide a center out of all the hubs. I'm the only one remaining, and I became a center.
Yeah, the shelters were unfortunately necessary, but beautifully run, especially in your case, just with such dignity and respect. It's really. All right, communication. People were on top of this right away. It was really amazing. One of the things that a lot of people needed very quickly was being able to tell people they were alive, or to see if their loved ones were still okay, to file unemployment, all those kinds of things. There was a man named Ryan, and he just brought his truck over and gave everybody the access to his Starlink, and everybody in the Pili parking lot just started, using his Starlink days after the fire. Later, the Maui Tech Hui, they actually got a bunch of donated trucks, and they also borrowed some from Enterprise, and they joke that Alex Fielding is now lifetime banned from Enterprise rental car because they blew out so many diesel trucks, running them as generators, as Starlink systems and Wi-Fi recharge stations. So, yeah, I mean, that just, people with incredible technological knowledge just stepping up to fill that gap right away. Here's another story. Ellie Erickson, I mentioned before, she was the one that ran the People Finder. There was another smaller list in the People Finder that you see over on the right. That is a really special story about Yelena Dakovic, and she worked with the unsheltered population here on Maui, and she realized that they needed to find all the unsheltered people because they weren't necessarily going to show up on the main list. And so she started searching for them. And then she put the call out saying, who do we need on this list? And before they knew it, they had 250 names of people who knew unsheltered people that they needed to find. And one of the most beautiful things that she told me was that unsheltered people who she finally tracked down in various places, she knew all the places that they might end up. She said they'd tell me, I can't believe I saw my name on the list. I had no idea that people cared enough to look for me. And so it was really special for her to get to call and tell people who had said, well, what about, hat weaving David? Is he okay? And she could call them and tell me, yeah, he's fine now. Unfortunately, the one person that she was looking for was Rex, and he was one of 4 unsheltered people who didn't make it. And that's a picture of Rex there. So it was really hard for her, but she was glad that she could be there to help the other people and make sure they got the care they needed. I love this picture. By land, air, and sea, there was nothing that was going to stop the people of Maui from getting to the other side of this island. When the poly was closed, the big wave surfers came out. The Jaws safety team was there, 20 or so jet ski drivers. I talked to Curtis Chonkeys, one of the safety drivers for Jaws, and he had this crazy story where one day he was heading home after a full day of unloading boats on his jet ski. He hit debris in the water and sent him flying. Tore a hole in his jet ski. His jet ski is starting to sink. It felt like it hit concrete. It was so bad. He broke his wrist, dislocated his shoulder, and thank God the Jaws safety team was nearby. They got him out. But next day, he just wrapped it up, put his shoulder back in the sock, and he was out there again, right on another borrowed jet ski, so that he could keep going. They were just outrageously helpful, and on top of it, so many boats. I mean, every snorkel boat, tourist boat, private boat. I think one of the things that still gives me chills is seeing the pictures of the boats that showed up from Molokai. They were there 5 a.m. I mean, like they left Molokai right at dawn, and they were bringing supplies right away. I mean, you'd imagine, I assumed there would be like a U.S. Navy flotilla coming over or something from Pearl Harbor. No, it was the fishermen from Molokai. Yeah. And they came. And, Molokai is part of Maui County, but it's not as well resourced as we are at all. Everything's more expensive there. So for them to be bringing over food and gas, and the boats never stopped. They just kept coming and coming. Kahana boat ramp, Uncle C and his whole family and crew there were all just part of that. And it was so beautiful. And of course, the chains of people. This is I don't know that most of you know that private planes are not allowed to land at Kapalua Airport. It's only commercial planes. But we really needed to get a lot of stuff over there quickly. And so they managed to finagle permission for private plane operators to fly in. And they'd never done it before. And if you remember, it was a little bit windy. So there's this great quote from Lawrence Walter. He says, it was extraordinarily windy. There's wind shear on the short final approach. You're carrying a max loaded aircraft into a short runway, and so you have to be on your game. And for all of us, it was the first time flying into that airport. We had never rehearsed this before, but you knew going in that that what you were doing wasn't for fun. You were a lifeline to the community, and that had a special meaning. So all of these helicopter pilots and plane pilots, they did this for the first time and just did an extraordinary job getting stuff that was immediately offloaded to the hubs. If you wanted to just get like a very concentrated feeling of what humanity is capable of, and like the aura of goodness, you could have just shown up to any of the hubs and you would have felt it so distinctly. I mean, there's S-turns, Pohaku Park, Kohana. And this is what a lot of the hubs look like. Up in the right is just, the almost like the Kanaka Costco that we were talking about at Kahana Boat Ramp. And here's Napili Hub. I could talk about them for hours. They just did extraordinary work. They were really careful too about being as dignified as possible, making sure you shop your own, not feeling like it's a handout. There's this beautiful story that Mel on the lower left there told me about. It was really hard until they started seeing signs of people moving forward. And so this one day, this little old man who would come all the time to get his food from there, he says, hey, you got any oyster sauce? And she's like, hey, babe, what you need oyster sauce for? Like, you're in the hotel. You don't need any oyster sauce for cooking. He's like, I got my place. And he was so beaming that he finally got his apartment, that he could actually cook his food. And she goes around the corner. She's crying. She's like, oh my God. And she's like, oh, shoot, we don't have any oyster sauce. So she runs down to Tamara Paulton, our councilwoman, county councilwoman, Tamara Paulton's house, goes into her refrigerator. Tamara's not there. She steals the oyster sauce. She leaves a little note, says, I owe you oyster sauce, be back. And she runs back up and gets the guy his oyster sauce because it was so sweet. So that was the kind of place that the Pili Hub was. It was a place where you really could feel like family and you'd be taken care of. I want to turn this over to Shannon because she had the most intimate experience. There she is, second from the left there, with the Kula Hub. So much that was special about the Kula Hub. So can you kind of give us the rundown of what it was like to be part of that?
Yeah, so the Kula Hub it is, I think, a story of just a positive feedback loop. It starts with the Kula Lodge. Stephanie allowed her employees to give out food. She had food and water and a little sign that was spray painted on plywood. So then Kyle Ellison sees that and realizes that there's no major efforts going on in Kula and there's still active hotspots. So he not only sees a need for a hub for supplies and resources for people, but he sees the need that there's still a danger of fires. We need to send people into the field. The firefighters can't go to each hotspot. Homeowners were with their lawn hoses at their homes day and night, and we needed to help this community, and a lot of the community is retired as well. So there's just a large community that needs on hands-on help. So Kyle puts out this post. I show up. There's 3 of us, and I know that my boat coworkers. There's a lot of people helping in Lahaina. I was shocked, and it like turned a switch on in me, and I could see Kyle had a vision, but he needed someone to help organizing. So that's how I stepped in. And a couple days in, we start getting hundreds of volunteers. Uh, and Kyle has and also Nico Senna, who grew up in the area, have an idea of the lay of the land. They're sending people out into people's backyards, into the gulches. We were called the Chainsaw Pirates. People were showing up with chainsaws. We said, "What tool do you have? Great, you go over here. Do you have a truck? Perfect. 5 people are going to jump in that truck, and we're sending you to this location." We just had constant calls from the community, 10 notepads, and 5 or 6 of us who took it upon ourselves to organize. And of course, when you have a bunch of people gathered during one of these emergencies, other people show up and other people have resources. So that's where Alexis Huggins and I really stepped and made our space of helping to organize the resources that were coming. People started coming from other hubs, donating all these food and supplies and clothing. So now we have a parking lot that used to have 1 pop-up tent with 10. And we're, organizing, and we're getting volunteers to, take part in the resources of providing these supplies to the community. We started having other neighbors come who didn't lose their homes, but were emotionally shook. And then other community members came in who could provide resources like Lomi Lomi and energy therapy. So then that was happening at the same time. And then all of these nonprofits from all over the place and locally were coming with very specialized resources, and we were helping them find the residents that needed that help. So yeah, the hubs we were like the center of a spider web, and we were one of many. And hot food. People were showing up with resources to provide us with hot food to give to local residents. Water was an issue. There's just so many layers to the hubs, and if you asked me to write how we did it, I couldn't do that. It just happened. Each day, each moment, we said, we'll figure it out. We just kept doing it on the fly. None of us were trained. And yet we created a center that provided people with a lot of resources, and it's now transitioned. And I think all 3 of us and almost everyone in this book, I'm sure, can speak to. Now we're looking at this long-term game. We were in this, first month immediate response, kind of knowing we were planting seeds, I think. And now we're all still involved. And, the community, I think, is going to need us even more so in the 3 to 5 year and ongoing from that. And we were talking about the generations past that. So yeah, no, I think the hubs the energy's still alive, and we're still quite invested in, keeping this going, keeping this energy going.
So beautiful. Thank you, Shannon. I'll go quickly through the next 2 so we can talk to Trinette. First, we had chapter 6 is food, the chefs that stepped up. There was this call from unsung hero Jennifer Caracca, and she is with Common Ground Collective. She's behind the scenes of all of this. And she got a call from Nick Winfrey of United Way, and he said, "Jen, we got to feed a lot of people." This is 7:30 in the morning on August 9th. He's like, "How do we feed a lot of people?" And she's like, the only place I can think of that has an industrial kitchen that we could use is the college, the UHMC. And so she calls the chancellor, and he says, absolutely. Chef Craig Omori up upper left, and he's the head of the culinary school. He shows up that first night. They're kind of like opening tiny tin cans, putting in a huge crock pot just to make stuff for people who were stranded at the airport. The next day, they're doing thousands of meals for the people at the shelter. They had celebrity chefs there. They had just regular people who knew how to prep. They had all kinds of people that showed up, and it was just an amazing effort for months, honestly. They also transitioned to the program, and Chef Craig, he actually decided that if you wanted to be part of the culinary school that semester, you were going to sign up for disaster relief cooking. And everybody in the culinary school took the class, and they took shifts. And there's one student told me, yeah, I spent one day just flipping 400 pancakes. I'm a really good pancake flipper now. So they learned a lot, and they felt really connected in doing that, which I thought was a beautiful thing. Sorry, I can't miss Joey Makadang Dang. Joey's Kitchen over in Napili Plaza. He's amazing. He almost lost his house. He shows up the night of the fires, having evacuated, realizes that Napili parking lot is full with people who have evacuated, and they're all kind of hungry and lost and not sure what to do. There's no electricity, so he just drives his van right up to his restaurant, turns his lights on so they can see inside, and he said, let's cook it all up. They fed everybody in the parking lot, and for weeks, food would just kind of show up at the back door, and they'd cook it up and keep feeding everybody. Donations were amazing. I love this picture on the right of the pews full in Kahului Baptist Church. Shelves emptied. Here's cases of like someone like Adam Ladwig. He's thinking, how can I help? How can I help? And then he looks and he's like, I got a lot of guitars. I bet other people could use some of these guitars. And so he actually started a program to connect musicians from Lahaina and Kula with people who had extra instruments. Here's the sewing hui, making pillowcases for the shelter. On the left is Judd Lau, along with a lot of surfboard shapers who replaced about 800 surfboards for people in Lahaina who had lost theirs. And here's Rhapsody Luna's Uncle Raps. He got fishing poles back in the hands of fishermen, especially because that was a way for both surfing and fishing are a way for people to heal and connect, with nature. And they felt like that was a real priority, which I thought was beautiful. The keiki, this is where we want to talk to Trinette, but let me just do the first bit. So this is this little boy on the bike. His name is Nico Pinto, and he lost his house in Lahaina. He fled the fire with his parents and his brother. Here he is at the Napili Hub, and Moose of Crank Cycles shows up with a bunch of bikes to donate. Moose has given away like thousands of bikes at this point. He's just incredible. And some of you might know his business Upcountry actually suffered a fire just like months before the Lahaina fires, and so he was personally affected as a fire survivor in some ways too. But he wanted to keep giving back. So little Nico, he wanted to learn how to ride a bike, but he was only 4, and people are like, he might be a little young. But Moose is like, nah, this kid can do it. So of course he teaches him how to do it, and here he comes careening towards the crowd, pedaling by himself. He stops and says, "I did it!" And for Moose, he was just like, this is why we do it, for those magical moments. He says, do you think in this moment that kid's thinking that his house is dust or that, his town is just a zip code now? No, he's in the moment and he's happy because he's learning something new. So for 2 months, Nico had barely eaten anything. And the day he learned how to ride a bike, he started eating again. Here's Janelle Peterson. She started the pop-up school with no resources, and she had kids under a tent within 2 weeks of the fires learning, and then it turned into the HTA, Hawaii Technical Academy up in Kapalua. But her story is really beautiful because Engine 3 saved her home, and she got to meet them and hug them 3 days after the fires. She was one of maybe of just a few houses on that block that survived. And she thought, if they can do that, so many of those people lost their homes. The firefighters lost their homes. She said, if they can do that, what can I do? And so that's what inspired her to say, I know how to start a school, so I can do that. Then here comes one of my favorite stories of the entire book. This is one of my favorite humans. Can you please tell us about the ice cream aunties? I actually got to go on this particular jaunt with my photographer friend, and it's just so cool. Do you want me to tell you how it started, or do you want to tell it? Okay, because I love this. I love it so much. All right. So, well, you can give any backstory, but so Trinette is realizing that she wants to have more access to the people that are very shocked and in their homes and not really sure what to do in the days after the fires, mostly in the Hawaiian Homes neighborhood. And she's thinking, how do I get people to come out? So actually, you really should tell this. It's so, I just love it so much. But can you tell about yeah, please.
So, yeah, as Victoria said, taking things out. The first few times that I went through Kilauea Mauka, actually, I went with supplies. We went with hot food, and people were very reticent to come out from their homes. And I'm not one to knock on every door. I had to do that campaigning. That is not my strong suit, and so I was wondering how I could get people to come out to me. It was one thing to leave supplies on a driveway. It was another thing to connect with the person in that house. And Kilauea Mauka especially was right along that burn scar. And so many folks had already been traumatized, being told that they needed to leave. And some of them were in houses that were partially burned and they did not want to leave. And so I went home, asked my daughter, and I don't know, how can I get people to come out? And she says, well, how did people come out when you were little? And I thought, oh, I would go out for the ice cream truck, right? I mean, you hear the tune, and you run out. And I knew that that older folks like myself would remember the ice cream tune and know what that meant. And younger folks, the kids who had no clue what it was, would want to know what it was. And so the first jot that I made out with ice cream tunes, and this is funny because as I was going out, people were like, oh, you played a tune, but you don't bring any ice cream, right? I was like, here's some toilet paper, some garbage bags, some rings. I'm like, but where the ice cream? And it was like, but I'm bringing you medical supplies. I'm like, but the ice cream. So the first time that I went out with ice cream, the alumni of Seabury Hall had helped me out. They gave me 99 Chromebook computers and 9 Yeti coolers. And I filled all of those coolers with ice cream. And this was just for the neighborhood. This is not even talking about visiting the hubs. I took out people who wanted Kamiki and some other folks who, when you ride with me, you become officially an ice cream auntie or an ice cream uncle. And I have 3 ice cream uncles that have come. So men are available. If you're available, come on with me. I say that because I still go out. I do not go to these neighborhoods anymore because to me, they're a little bit further along in their resiliency. When I went to the hubs, I visited every single hub. I would take out at least 500 units of ice cream every week in a rented truck. This truck that you see here now is one that I was blessed with by Greater Good Music. So there were nonprofits that were flooding in with resources to help. Good 360, Baby to Baby. These are nonprofits that when the fires happened in LA, they were the first boots on the ground helping communities. And they continue to help us still with supplies for babies, for mothers, for children. I have also kind of turned over my outreach in that I help unsheltered folks, folks who have fallen through the cracks, who did not get FEMA assistance because someone else claimed the home or address that they could not. And so within all of the ice cream aunties adventures, I call them, missions of Aloha, they truly are, because no matter who comes with me or nor where we go, it's not just free ice cream or a big spin wheel you see there on the back. Children would line up. We'd have a line for ice cream and a line for the spin wheel. And the spin wheel was all Olelo Hawaii. So I tested them too. And you could win extra sprinkles, a free ice cream, a scoop from a treasure chest. And the treasure chest, community members helped with that. So I had donations from a swim club that meets in Kihei of older ladies, and they get together once a month and they look on Oriental Trading Company and spend the money that they give as tips to the instructor to buy things for the treasure chest. The ice cream comes from donations from folks like you. I mean, I get 25 here, I get a gift card, somebody will come to the warehouse with ice cream. I have never, ever wanted for something in this community. And that's why I know that we know how to help ourselves. I know this because I've been blessed by the help to help others. And that's why I continue to do it. Ice Cream Aunties is an absolute joy for me. When I come, and yes, it's the music and people, I see people's faces, oh, Auntie, adults as well. I'll make them work for it a little bit. I'm like, I'm just gonna pull over there. And then as I start to pull over and they start to, get more, okay, they queue up and I'm like, no, I'm gonna stop over here a little bit. Um, it's it's the smiles, it's the connection with the kids, like Nettie was saying, that auntie tree, auntie tree, auntie tree. They'd be yelling, and I can hear them right when they hear the music. Um, but it's the connections with their parents and their grandparents, folks uh, that really need, you know, community and therapy. And what I offer is an unconventional way of connecting with folks. You don't have to go into an office and speak to a therapist. Come talk to your auntie. There are resources that are available, and I readily connect you with them. I drive you there if I can. So it absolutely is a labor of love for me. And I had shared with Victoria that I will continue to do it. It has in sometimes been a choice between rent or doing this. But as I had mentioned earlier, everything that I need comes when I'm giving back to my community. The truck included. Every single week, I rented a truck that was big enough to take coolers, to take supplies, and always, when it came time for me to head out on a Friday afternoon to the hubs, that truck was rented. Greater Good Music, when truck rentals started getting a little bit tricky, um, they supplied Maui Rapid Response and myself with enough money to purchase that truck that I drive now. I had a community member donate coolers. Um, it any way that people have felt they can step up or they can step in. I don't want to say step up. I want to say step in, because that's what we do, right? We step into community. We don't step up, because when you step up, it gives me like, oh, you're fronting somebody, right? What's up? No, we step in, because when we step in, we're with each other, right? There is, as Nettie said, there's no position, you have no label. I really don't care where you live or what kind of car you drive, because you're there, and it's that now, right? That now, your aloha and your attention and your focus is all on what we are doing together as a community. And so I have no doubt, as we continue to go into disaster recovery, because we're still recovering. And it's not just the fire survivors. Yeah, it's all of us. It's all of us who have been impacted. And so I want to remind you all, reach out. Reach out when you need to. When you see somebody that's having a hard time, reach out to them. Aloha costs nothing, and it's not pie because you give some to someone else that somebody else doesn't get. Yeah. So I want you to remember that. That's what Ice Cream Aunties is about. You can all be ice cream aunties and uncles. Just play it a tune. It's the good humor tune. It's over 50 years old, so it is not copywritten that you will get ups.
I love it. Thanks, Trinette. It was really one of the best days of my life, is riding along with you. It's so good. So good. We're gonna blaze through this so we have time for questions and answers. We had to include the animals, of course. Maui Humane Society, you see the fire was right across the street from them too. But there's Katniss, who was the first one to come. The volunteers there were unbelievable. This is a beautiful story. This is Paige DuPont on the left, and she has the Spirit Horse Ranch up country, and she has been providing free equine assisted therapy ever since the fires, and it's so beautiful. If anyone has been affected, or if you know someone who has, please try this, because it's extraordinary. What you're able to process when you're next to a 2,000-pound animal is really something else. It's really incredible. And then we had a lot of local businesses that stepped up. We had people like John and Carissa Baker of Chosen Rentals, who just said, "Hey, we've got a fleet of rental cars. Have them." We had Hawaii Tours. They were amazing. They were running loops to get people from the hotels to the hubs. They were doing medical transport. They were bringing donations in. I mean, their CEO basically said, "Go help. Go do whatever you can, and we'll take care of you guys." So they were paying the drivers the salary that they had been getting doing tours to Hana to be doing community work instead. Yeah, they took a huge hit to the company, but they're just extraordinary, really impressive. There's, the laundromat in Kaanapali that stepped up to wash clothes for free. Ohana Fuels that just provided free fuel to everybody. This is a beautiful story about Omi Chandi of Nokawe Jewelers, and he realized that as a jeweler, he could refurbish anything that was found in the ashes. And so he's done it for hundreds of people to bring their jewelry back to life after they find it. The health team, my God, you could talk about them forever. Maui Pharmacy, just, God, they did so much. Noelani Ahia, one of my favorite people on the left there she is, just being with a community member who was seeing her family home for the first time. Noelani was really, really careful, and continues to be. She's still working to this day in this work, to be really thoughtful about her approach. She says, "We did a lot of hugging. That's medicine too." She added, with consent, of course, but sometimes people just needed to be held, and you just needed to be there to help them catch their breath, And so she also didn't believe in mental health treatment necessarily, but she would talk story, and they would even walk story on the beach, and whatever she could do to really make people feel comfortable and seen and taken care of. She's just extraordinary. And there's also on the right, there's Tambra Garrick. She ran the Tambulance. She turned her old Ford Explorer into a medical transport vehicle, and she would just go all over helping people get to the hospital and getting the medicine they needed and things like that. This is the remembering Shani. So Sunya and Shanine were the ones that created the crosses. Amazing story. If you get a chance to read it in the book, it's really a beautiful story about how everything just kind of came together to make that possible before Biden's visit. I mean, they were literally sawing with old saws because there was no electricity where they live, just to like fence posts to make this happen. They thought it would be temporary. It's not going anywhere. It's a place where people can come and honor those that we've lost. They also, for those of you who are interested in staying involved in this, every month on the 8th from 8 to 10, they go and clean up the site if you ever want to be part of that, to help repaint it and clean up any trash that might have got there. Of course, there was the paddle outs. This is a community coming together 1 month after the fires in just a beautiful way. Are these your pictures? No, they're similar. These ones are. Yeah, these are hers. Beautiful. And of course, I wanted to end the book looking forward. And there are plenty of, everyone up here is looking forward and are still involved. This is another extraordinary story. So we have Kai McPhee and his son Aspen, and on the left you can see them. That's Aspen's first birthday, and there he is planting his coconut tree. So Kai, he runs a coconut farm in Laniapoko, and tourists can come and learn about coconut and things like that. It's very much part of his family, and very important. So on the first birthday, of course, they planted this coconut tree. 2 weeks after the fire, he realizes, the coconut tree. Oh my God, I got to go check on the coconut tree. Of course, his home had burned down. He lived right above the clubhouse at Puamana. And so he goes to where the checkpoint is. He's like, I got to go check on this tree. It's really important. He shows the officer the pictures. The officer's like, no, you can't come in right now. This is like, we're like searching for bodies. This isn't the time, He's like, but I really need to water this tree. He has this big 5-gallon jug of water. And the cop's like, where's the tree? Here, give me the water. Okay. And so he goes, and the cop goes and he waters the tree, and he comes back with tears in his eyes and the biggest smile on his face. He said, "That's the first moment of hope I've had since the fires." And when Kai saw this man respond in that way, he's like, I need to do this for more people. And so he started Regreen Lahaina, and he started taking people into Lahaina to water their trees. And only 1,000 of the 25,000 trees in Lahaina are going to survive, unfortunately. But they gave people hope and connection, and they could tell their stories about that mango tree and what's buried there and all the things, And so that's just one example of a grassroots movement that I just find incredibly amazing. Here's Dwayne Sparkman. He's planting trees. He helped early on with the banyan tree, and he is now planting trees for people to put into their homes when they get back to Lahaina. And here's a picture of the coconut tree now. There's Asman and his dad with their coconut tree still thriving. So there's hope, and we can still look forward to what's to come. Thanks to our community, of course. So yeah, that's the quick rundown. It's not the entire book. You'll have to read it to see. That was just the highlight reel, but yeah, some beautiful stories that really give a glimpse into what the community was doing. Yeah.
It's so much. Thank you so much for that. Let's give her a round of applause for this beautiful work. And to the beautiful work and the response that you all gave during and continue to do for our community. And I want to open it up for a few questions.
Victoria and the panelists, thank you. This has been an extraordinary experience, so we're grateful for you all. Victoria, where can you get your book? And also, does the book have a list of the nonprofits, particularly in the Looking Forward piece, that are still doing work that the community can know about for donations, etc.?
The book is available on our website, bigheartsonaLittleIsland.com. We're also doing wholesale right now, so it's in a bunch of stores. You can find that on our website as well. And there is a list of some of the organizations that are mentioned in the book that are still doing great work, like Nettie's organization, and ways that you can donate to them. Yeah, thank you for asking that.
Another question? Okay, then we're going to wrap tonight. Again, thank you all so much for your beautiful work in our community, and that you're still here in the community inviting us in. So thank you so much. We'll hopefully see you at another salon. Let's give them a round of applause.